So here you got this Revolutionary War, and you got the Indians though. The Indians are like, what we doing? Because it's our land, and you got these Moroccans, and then you got these elite Moors, and so they're talking to the people who had created the United States of America, and they're saying to them, listen, y'all been at war for 3 years, and when we came to you all, or you came to us, and you just said to us to just sit back and we'll handle everything. So we just sat back, we went to the King of England and we tried to talk to them, and they just said, sit back and let us handle it. And so y'all been fighting, and it's been 3 years, and now it looks like you all have made up, and y'all still mistreating us. Now we have been trying to have a meeting with y'all. This is the Indian Council talking to those who were running the United States of America, and this is before George Washington. Find the document at that link I sent you to. And they're saying, listen, it was 3 years, and now y'all seem to be good with each other, but y'all are mistreating us. Y'all keep killing our people. Y'all keep treading on territory that we didn't give you permission to tread on. Y'all keep ignoring us, and we've asked you for peace, but you won't even have a conversation with us about it. You told us to be quiet, we were quiet, and now, y'all all good, and you treading on all our territory, you're killing up all our people, you're disrespecting everything that we've given you authorization to have here, and we just want some answers. Who was doing that? So-called elite Moors. Because they were the ones who were running the United States. Because let's remember, the first presidents of the United States of America were melanated people, Moors. All right? Y'all go look that up. So, now we're at this point now where the United States of America is in play. But then in 1789, George Washington comes into the game. And George Washington now has established a new constitution that is different from what was set up by these elite Moors. And in this constitution, he changed some things, one of which was the 13th Amendment I told you all about. And why was that so important? Because George Washington, as I said, was not qualified to be president because he was a direct descendant of the Queen of England. Why is that important? Because in that 13th Amendment, it said no royal blood can be president of the United States. And he removed that 13th Amendment. Okay, but not only that, I need y'all to understand, George Washington, they want you to think he was an Albion. He was not. Again, remember I told you the Queen of England was melanated all the way up to the mid-1800s. George Washington came in 1789. He was direct descendant of the Queen of England. This is another melanated person. He might have been amalgamated, meaning he mixed with a whole bunch of light-skinned people, but he was a melanated being. As a matter of fact, Abraham Lincoln was melanated. Abraham Lincoln was related to George Washington. Everybody between George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, they melanated. They want you to think they Albions. Go back and look up why they kept picking on Abraham Lincoln so much, because he was so dark-skinned. They kept picking on him. All these people in here. Abraham Lincoln, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 16, Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, they related. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go one further. George Washington is related to all of the presidents up to Barack Obama by blood. I ain't going into Barack Obama's story, but I need you to understand. They all related by blood. So I need y'all to understand, England has been running this game since George Washington. That's why your books want you to believe that George Washington was the first president, when he was not. Because if you knew that there were several presidents before George Washington that were melanated, then it would destroy the narrative that all these black people came in here as slaves. Well, how is that when the people who actually created the United States of America were melanated themselves? Okay, let's get on this now. How we're talking about this and how North America is not Morocco. Is not Morocco. And if you have any comments or disagreements, go ahead and say it. Say it. Let's talk about it. And if you don't like it, you can bite these nuts. These nuts, Diva Lyri's nuts, are natural, salted, brown, roasted nuts. Find a link in the bio. As I continue. All right, so now, getting on to this. And again, I'm giving you this information. I'm giving you the facts. So you can go and look it up for yourself. And you can find your truth. Because some people are like, well, I heard that, but I don't want to believe it. Okay, that's fine. But here are the facts, as they have not been told to you. Now, I want to get into, now we got George Washington as president in 1789. And let's understand what was going on at this time. Once again, Britain had gotten their butts kicked. And they had gotten kicked out, hostile takeover of all of their companies. But the way they had to get them back is that they had to bring in a crony for the Queen of England, which was George Washington. And this is why they created this new constitution. I need y'all to understand what had happened and why Morocco even came into the picture in the first place. Remember I told you Britain and Morocco had been in bed together since the 1400s because they were trading. And some of y'all, well, what you talking about, Diva? How was they in bed? Go and look up the Barbary treaties. Look up the Barbary Company. Take Zuma, Tripoli, Morocco. Those were your Barbary companies. And they were owned by Britain. And what did they do? These Barbary companies, what did they do? They traded goods, mainly sugar, that cane sugar, which is a drug. For those of y'all who don't know, sugar is a drug. It's more addictive than cocaine. And I need y'all to understand that they were trading this, and this was a very popular commodity. In the Confederacy or Constitution was written by the women of the Seven Fires Nation. Thank you, Galen Coles. I hope y'all taking notes on this, because not only am I dropping jewels, so are the people in the comment section. Galen Coles is dropping jewels. And speaking of dropping jewels, these nuts are by the dropping jewels. Why? Because Diva's dropping jewels. Diva's dropping jewels. So I hope you got your pen and paper. And also, you can bite these nuts. Find the link in the bio. All right, let's get on with it. So, we got George Washington is in the house. Now, he is a crony for the Queen of England. And as I told you, what had happened is that when Britain had gotten kicked out by the elite Moors, they called on Morocco. They called in the dogs. They was like, hey, you and us had a peace treaty between, so there was a treaty between Britain and Morocco, not with the United States of America and Morocco. So then after Britain got their butts kicked, they called in Morocco, called in a favor and said, hey, Morocco, go in there and rough them up. And that's exactly what Morocco did. They came into the United States, and these are your Moors, the melanated folks mostly, because we're talking about Tunis, Algiers, Tripoli, Montezuma, Morocco. And so they came in and they seized the ports and the ships of North America. And what was happening is there was a slave trade. But y'all be like, that's right, Diva. They brought our people over here from Africa on the slave trade. Hold on, because that ain't how it happened. Pay attention. Who was running the slave trade? They want y'all to believe those were Albions. But when we go back and look, because we do our homework here, because we're mature people, look up the Barbary treaties and understand what's really going on with the peace and friendship treaties. What was really going on in the Barbary treaties? You got to understand, these treaties between the United States of America and Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, Tripoli, and that's when the Peace and Friendship Treaty comes into effect as well, around the same time. Well, what was going on? Why was the United States begging for a treaty? Why they need peace and friendship? Well, because when Morocco was seizing their ports and their ships, it was breaking them. They didn't have money. They weren't bringing in any funds. And what was on those ships was slaves. Slaves. But they want you to think they was melanated slaves. When the truth is, and I need y'all to take notes, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't want to hear another melanated person talking about they are descendant of the slave. Unless you mix with Albion, you gotta understand what the term slave means. The original slaves were Albion people. They were not melanated. The term comes from Albion people. Slavic or Slovakian, look it up. Slavic or Slovakian, look it up. So the term slave comes from a group of Albion or light-skinned people, not melanated people. This is what I tell y'all, these words get switched up and y'all get caught up in a word and you legally are damning yourself every time you say it. All right? So the term slave comes from Slavic or Slovakian, which are Albion people, and who was bringing in the slaves but these Tunis, Algiers, Tripoli, Montezuma, all of those over in Africa. Morocco, Montezuma is more so in South America, but all those other ones, these melanated people kidnapping Albions. Where they kidnapping them from? Sicily, Ireland, all these places where the Albion people had multiplied and accumulated. They going and stealing them and bringing them into the land, discombobulating them. Huh? Who the original slaves? These were Albions, not melanated people. So when you talking about a descendant of the slave, you're talking about a descendant of Albion people. I'm not telling you, if you want to keep calling yourself a descendant of the slave, then call yourself that. But then what you just said is you have no entitlement to this land. You're not from here. You called yourself black. Well, we are black. Well, then black means dead. You and your Black Lives Matter. And you know what? I want you to think about the name of every so-called black or Negro or colored institution. I need to go into this. Think of all of the Black Lives Matter, HBCU for historically black colleges and universities, the NAACP, something for the advancement of colored people, Black Caucus, all of these organizations. I need y'all to understand that every last one of the ones, at least that I have mentioned, and probably any other thing dealing with black or Negro or colored, they're all owned by Jews. And I don't want to hear you talking about some, oh, you racist. I'm giving you the facts. And if you don't like the facts, bite these. That's D' for Diva Lyri's nuts. All natural, roasted, salty nuts. By dropping jewels, because Diva's dropping jewels. And guess what? I got chocolate covered nuts too. Bite these. All right. All of those, anything you thinking about in this society that's talking about black for the advancement of the black and the advancement of the colored and the Negroes and the Black Lives Matter, don't no melanated people own any of those organizations. As a matter of fact, when I'm talking about HBCUs, not nary of them, with the exception of Morris Brown in Atlanta, which almost got shut down, and I think they rebooted it. But the rest of them are owned by Jews. And if you didn't know that, And you walking around here, I'm black and I'm proud. Okay, keep on saying it out loud. And understand why you keep getting stepped on. Because you keep claiming to be a dead entity. All right, I'm going to continue. I hope y'all are taking notes. Because I want you to do your research. Don't just, oh, what Diva said it must be true. Don't believe a word. Don't believe a word I say. Not nary. Go look it up. That's why I'm giving you the information. I don't want you to believe me. I want you to see it for yourself. And then I need you to speak the truth that you have found on your own. Don't regurgitate what nobody says. I don't care who it is. Don't regurgitate. Go and look it up for yourself. And then when you speak it, it is your knowledge that you have looked up for yourself, not something I told you.